So, Ginger.
Yeah?
You know how we wanted to start a podcast, but we were having trouble coming up with a topic?
Yeah?
Okay, so here's my pitch. The topic of the podcast is us trying to come up with the topic for the podcast.
What, like we pitch each other podcast ideas and that's the podcast?
Yeah, exactly. We could call it, What Should Our Podcast Be About?
Miles, that's really stupid. Let's do it.
What should this song be about? I'm trying to figure it out. What should this song be about? Could you perhaps help me out? I've had a moment of doubt. What should this song be about? Welcome to What Should Our Podcast Be About? The podcast where we try to figure out what this podcast should be about. I'm Miles Grover.
And I'm Ginger Barham.
Actually, wait, I did the intro wrong. Welcome to Names for All Manners of Hounds. The podcast where you only talk about the 1,000 names in the book from the 15th century of names for hounds. That's because that's what I want to talk about right now.
Okay, so we figured out what our podcast is about.
Well, for the moment. So I don't usually, actually follow up on things I say that I'm going to in this podcast. But
aside toilet talk.
Aside from toilet talk, which
we committed to 100%.
We definitely did that for real. So last week we talked about this tweet that I saw that mentioned a few names for dogs from a 15th century book. Those were Nosewise, Garlic, Pretty Man, Gaylord, Norman, and Filth, which we thought were pretty amusing. So I actually went and found the paper that's based on, like an academic paper. And, well, I didn't read the whole thing, but I skimmed through it and read through the names. And there are some more good ones. Do you want to hear some more good ones here?
Definitely.
Birdismouth, Birdismowthe. They spell mouth like that in all of these.
That's almost like a cat pun. Yeah.
Almost. Oh, hello, Rory. Rory's here as well, of course.
Rory was trying to make a dog barking sound, I think.
Maybe.
He was barking in approval.
Boynard, Bonaire, Crampette, Chopper, Choungeable.
Crampette is Krampus' wife, right?
I think so, yeah. Choungeable, I guess is changeable, but it's spelled Chawngneabull, which also sounds like a Pokemon or something. This one's one of my favorites. Druggy Man.
Druggy Man.
Yep.
That's your dealer.
Yeah. And your dog.
And your dog. Your dog who is also your dealer.
Yep. Dutchy Man, which I guess is if he's Dutch or you're having some weed and you're passing the Dutchy Man or something. Dud Man.
Wouldn't that be Doochie?
Doochie?
Yeah.
Well, I'm literally not pronouncing any
That's
of these
how the
right,
song
sure.
goes.
Past the Dutchy?
Is it past the Doochie?
I don't think so.
It's past the Doochie.
No. It's past
Get in the comments.
Dutchie on the left-hand side. It doesn't matter.
Get in the comments.
It's probably in between those vowels or whatever. But Find Well, like he's good at finding stuff.
All right.
Like Goer. This one goes. This dog, he's a goer. Housewife. I don't know what that. Maybe it's supposed to mean housewife. I think that was a name for
okay.
For a bitch. These are, by the way, these are
so nice and derogatory.
No. A bitch like a female dog. These are classified they're classified in the manuscript or whatever as the genders hound, bitch, terrier.
But calling a female dog a housewife seems questionable.
Yeah, I don't know if that's what it is or if hose just means
seems
hose.
like it's meant as an insult.
Well, also wife at the time might have meant more just like woman rather than wife like it means now, because that's where the word wife comes from. It literally just meant woman in Old English. And this is Middle English period, but anyway. All right. The genders are...
That doesn't mean it's not misogynistic.
No, it probably is.
It definitely
is, yeah. Okay, so the genders, I want to make this clear because I thought it was funny. Hound, bitch, terrier. Doesn't say if they're male or female terriers, just terriers are one category. And then greyhound, and I never thought about this before, but the female version, grey bitch. So those are the genders that these names, they say, oh, these are good names for grey bitches, and these are good names for terriers. And these are good names for hounds, and these are good names for greyhounds, which I guess are different. In terms of what names are good for them.
All right.
We've got little man, little boy, little wit. We've got pretty man and pretty boy. We've got rude enough. It's spelled weird. It's YNOWGH is how they, or actually YNOW. Y'all is the letter, but
yeah, no, this isn't a linguistics podcast.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, there was a letter called Yoch or Yog or whatever. Rude enough is I believe a male name, and then there's a female name or a bitch name and a hound name. There's a female name just Rude. So
there's Rude and Rude enough.
Yeah, we got I believe this was a bitch name Spouse. So again, sort of like housewife kind of or whatever.
Seems questionable.
There's one that I don't think is a pun, but maybe is a really good pun, and that's Dogless. I don't know if they just spelled Douglas like that, or if it's a pun.
Or if it's like a pun.
Yeah. There's also Hard Enough. Oliphant, which is spelled OLYFAWNTE.
I'm just trying to imagine, like, calling your dog if it's named one of these.
Right. Spouse. Hard enough. So one point that the paper makes is that these are not pet dogs. These are hunting dogs.
Okay.
And I don't know that you necessarily call out to them a lot, but it's more for like keeping track of them.
Like weird racehorse names kind of thing.
Sort of, yeah. We got Stretchy Forth.
How many more of these do you have?
A lot, but I'm not going to read through all of them. But Tully Mully.
Okay.
Blodeman, which I think is Blood Man, basically, I think. Pussy, a name for your male dog, Pussy.
Well, that hasn't always had negative connotations.
No.
Right?
But it means cat, right? Before it meant, like, lady parts, it meant a cat.
Yeah, but, like, I feel like there was a period of time where it was just, like, an endearing nickname.
Nickname for girls based on the fact that cats are called that.
Right.
And that was within the last 100 years or so. And this is 600 years ago or whatever.
Okay.
So I don't know what it meant at the time, but we've got Snack, which I think is pretty good. Snack or Snacky.
This hunting dog is a legit snack.
Yeah, and then my favorite one, Smile Fest.
Oh.
Like, this little dog's a Smile Fest.
That's cute.
That's pretty cute. Anyway, so there are lots more of these, literally hundreds more. I actually was so enchanted by this that I made a website, which you can go to if you're interested, which is coolpodcast.website/dog names. And you can hit a button to get a random one of the 1,064 or whatever it was of these names.
Yes, I remember you spent a Saturday doing that.
Yes.
I had fun playing around with it.
Bonifant, Have a Good Day, that's a name for a dog.
But don't give them all away.
Okay.
You're going to ruin all the surprises.
Yeah, there's a lot.
1,064 to be exact.
Something like that. Not exact, but something like that, yeah. Anyway, I just wanted everyone to know about these great names for dogs.
So that's not actually what our podcast is going to be about this week, though.
Well, it's a little bit what our podcast has been about for the last few minutes.
Yeah. But this is not actually our new podcast, because we'd run out of names pretty quickly.
We would. I just did, like,
a quarter of the list?
No, but, we'd run out after probably 10 or 20 episodes at the most.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So if that's something you'd like to hear, let us know, I guess. If you hated hearing that, let us know that, too.
Yes. Let's talk about ideas for podcasts.
All right.
Do you have one, or do you want me to start? I already did my main idea for this podcast.
I have a couple ideas this week.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can start if you'd like. The first idea I had was a podcast where we invent superheroes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Preferably, like, really stupid superheroes.
Stuperheroes, you might say.
Yeah, Stuperheroes. Maybe that could be what it's called.
Okay.
So yeah, just if we come up with superheroes with really useless superpowers.
Okay, so like
as useless as possible.
Matter Eater Lad, Arm Fall Off Boy, those kind of things. Those are from what are those from? Those are from a comic somewhere.
Yeah, I was thinking along the lines of what's that movie called?
Mystery Men?
Mystery
Is that the
Men,
one you're talking
yes.
about?
Yeah. But yeah, so, like Carrot Man, whose superpower is just to cook carrots.
With
Only
a stove?
carrots. Only
Or,
carrots.
like, he can just magically
he can look at carrots.
And they're cooked now.
And they're cooked now.
Do they turn to mush, or are they still like
No, they're
carrot-shaped?
perfectly cooked.
Okay, so they're al dente carrots or something?
I don't know. However carrots are supposed to be cooked, that's how they're cooked. I don't know about...
Yeah, I mean...
I don't know how carrots are supposed to be
cooked. You can cook them different ways, but okay. And is that so that he can then eat them, or that's... I guess if he's fighting...
to somebody?
He's fighting a carrot guy. That could be good. A good power.
Yeah, if there's a
carrot-based villain.
If there's a carrot-based villain, he could cook him.
Okay. So he can cook... Can he cook carrots of any size? Like if it was a huge carrot, could he instantly cook that as well?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of cool. It's very, very limited in scope, but it's... Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Carrot Cooker Man.
Carrot Cooker Man. I don't know. Now you go.
A guy who...
What if we gave each other a prompt and you had to, come up with a superpower?
I was just thinking about a song, a Vandals song. I think it's called Idea for a Movie. And it's all these, things that are obviously stupid and wouldn't make a good movie. And, this is going to win an Oscar for sure. Anyway, there's a kid who learns how to fly, but he can only fly 1 inch off the ground and only for a few feet.
Yeah, so stuff like that.
Still pretty cool. Could come in handy going over puddles, I guess. Stuff like that.
Yeah, so maybe we just try to, top each other.
I feel like it's got to be at least slightly useful, but really limited. Yeah. Right? Because it couldn't be you wouldn't want to do it he's got the superpower of having cancer. No matter what happens, he always has cancer.
No, it's got to be slightly,
it's
got to be slightly useful where just useful enough that you're yeah,
I guess I could use that. Something.
Dust Bunny Man. He just goes around the house. He comes into your house and cleans up the dust bunnies for you.
I was thinking he animates the dust bunnies and uses them as his tiny army. Which
he could become too powerful.
Would be cool, but not powerful, because dust bunnies are literally just little collections of dust and hair.
But what if he could put them together into, a huge dust bunny?
Well, that's not a dust bunny anymore, and his power won't work. Okay.
So that could be fun.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't quite see the podcast in it. Where does the podcast go? Okay, we came up with one. I guess you said we would try to top each other in slightly usefulness.
Or we take suggestions from our audience. Maybe they give us a prompt and be Brussels sprouts or Nike sneakers, and they're okay, let's come up with a.
Or we could just have do a random. I don't know, we could have ChatGPT give us random suggestions.
Yeah.
Or I was thinking just random noun generator or something that we could base stuff off of.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that could be fun. Anyway, okay. I mean, it would be a pretty loosely structured podcast, but I think it could be fun to riff on.
We come up with stupid superheroes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. What do you have this week?
I have a few. So inspired by the what was her name? Colleen Ballinger's
her
awful apology that she did.
Her non-apology.
So if you don't know who she is, she's a big YouTuber.
If you don't know who she is, you're lucky.
Well, we didn't know who she was until this happened either, but she's apparently got billions of views on YouTube. She has been on Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards or something, and I think a Netflix show. Anyway, she's a comedian on YouTube who has been accused of doing inappropriate things with minors.
Pretty inappropriate things.
Including sending her underwear to a 13-year-old and some other stuff. Anyway, she did a sort of apology video on YouTube where she actually played a song on her ukulele about the toxic gossip train or something.
She made sure it was longer than 10 minutes so she could monetize it.
It was very long, very bad, not actually an apology. And so the idea is, it's called all apologies or my apologies, but Apall is spelled appalling. like apologies.
Okay.
Right? And we're trying to come up with, well, for one, we'll discuss really bad apologies like this one. And otherwise, we're like trying to come up with bad apologies, maybe. Maybe it's like advice, like, here's a really bad way to give an apology.
Okay.
Something like that.
So it's kind of a like what not to do disguised as an advice podcast?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, like, I feel like there are probably enough bad apologies that we could spend quite a bit of time just like dissecting some of them. And maybe even some good apologies we could say, this actually worked because they did blah, 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 right? So yeah, that's pretty much the idea. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. That definitely wouldn't be a funny podcast, but it could be an interesting one.
It could be kind of funny to be like making fun of people making really bad apologies. Like,
yeah. One flaw I do see is we'd have to watch a lot of terrible apologies.
Yeah, or otherwise collect them somehow.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a certain amount of fun in that, but yeah.
Yeah, sometimes. I feel like there's a certain amount of fun in it once in a while. But if you were doing it all the time, it could get a little...
Yeah, and I mean,
disheartening.
There might not be
also
that much to like that much legs to it, like, because, you know, a good apology, like, what is it from? Like, is it from Anna Karenina or something where it's like all happy families are the same, all unhappy families are unhappy in their own way. That's not the quote, but it's something like that.
Right.
Like, all good apologies are pretty similar, probably.
Yeah.
And all bad apologies would have take myriad forms, but they probably actually would end up being pretty similar, like not taking accountability, blaming other people, or passing blame, getting defensive, things like that.
Yeah.
But truly appalling apologies are probably a little rarer and have things like making up a ukulele song about it, or like there was that video where like
that one was next level.
Yeah, there was one where a girl did like a sexy dance, interpretive dance or something.
Oh, I must have missed that one.
I forget what it was, but anyway, yeah. So that's that idea. I don't know.
All right.
I guess it also probably wouldn't be super easy for us to just do as our idea for this episode, because we'd have to find some more apologies and stuff to probably talk about, but I don't know. Do you have another idea?
Yeah, I only have one more this week. So my other idea was, so I thought, what if we did good versus soup, but bad? Like bad versus worst. We take like...
So which one is worse?
Yeah, take two really terrible things.
Okay. Because if it's just which one is worse, that's the same podcast, but just saying the other one is the answer, right?
Yeah, but you try to come up with two really
which
bad
one is
things.
Really bad.
Like Colleen Ballinger's apology versus...
Hitler?
Insert Donald Trump thing here, I guess.
I guess that one is a pretty quick race to the bottom, I feel like, right? Like, well, okay, Hitler. What's worse than Hitler? Well, not...
Okay, well, maybe we ban Hitler.
Okay.
Maybe we ban Hitler.
We should ban Hitler. We should cancel it.
Because obviously, the idea is we try to come up with creative things.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess like what's worse could be relative to what sort of context you're talking in, because, you know, worse than Hitler, I guess, is the heat death of the universe.
Right.
Right? At least as far as the universe existing is concerned. It doesn't really matter for people, at least not for billions of years. So it's like, what's worse for people? What's worse for us specifically? What's worse in a broad sense? What does it mean to be worse or bad, I guess?
Rory is playing with the
paper.
do not cut off tag on your chair.
Yeah. Yes, he's probably going to make some noise. Hopefully I'll be able to edit it out. But
yes, if you've been coming along on this journey, he is now mostly crawling. Not traditionally crawling, kind of pulling himself along by his arms on his belly, but...
Yeah, but he can move around, reliably.
So he can get into things now.
Yeah.
And he is doing that.
Okay. So Colleen Ballinger... So let's think of examples of, like, bad, but maybe not too bad things, like Hitler or whatever. So, like, her apology versus, like...
Your cat tearing up the arm of your sofa.
Okay, interesting. I mean, one is much worse for me personally.
Yeah.
Especially because I wasn't in any way affected by her, transgressions or whatever. And I also never really cared about her to begin with, because I didn't even know who she was until this really terrible apology.
She hurt more people, probably. And the cat was probably just being a cat.
Yeah, she definitely hurt more people, so it's worse for the world in general. Overall, nobody's harmed that much by the couch, other than like our guests,
Yeah,
right? And us, like being, slightly, inconvenienced, I guess, by the cat.
So let's say Colleen Ballinger's apology wins. Then what do we do to come up with the next thing?
Right. Yeah, it's like, how about it's hard to not jump to really bad stuff, right? Like, because I'm like, well, how about sweatshops existing, or Nestle not letting people have water, or the water situation in Flint, Michigan, or whatever, right? Like, there's a lot of like truly dire, terrible things in the world, even just currently, let alone history, like the Spanish Inquisition, right?
Yeah, I suppose it could get depressing really quickly.
Yeah. It's got to be like really mild, like mediocrely bad.
Yeah.
Oh, that's another idea. What's the most mediocre thing? That.
Okay.
That would be actually
that could be kind of fun,
right?
That could be kind of fun.
Like, Kraft mac and cheese versus, I don't know.
I feel pretty good about Kraft mac and cheese. I slightly feel above mediocre. When it comes to Kraft mac
So
and cheese.
maybe you have an easy job of coming up with something to beat it for mediocrity. We could call it like
plain rice.
Plain rice is definitely more mediocre. That's true. So we could call it. Yeah. Well, do you mean plain rice cooked or just plain rice?
Oh, I meant cooked.
Yeah, because not cooked is bad, right?
Yeah.
Or
you wouldn't want
edible,
to eat it.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like nothing on it.
Yeah.
Just plain old white rice.
Plain white rice. Okay, that's a pretty good contender for like all-time most mediocre thing.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty good pick. What about like 40-watt light bulbs or equivalent? Like they're kind of dim, they work, but they're not that good for lighting up.
40 I feel like is all right, isn't it? Isn't 20?
It's pretty low.
20 would be pretty low.
60 was like what we used back in the actual days when you cared about the wattage, or 100 watt, even if you wanted an actually like pretty bright light. Yeah. But 60 was kind of the standard, I feel like, and 40 is a bit dim, but still works, especially if you have a bunch of them. I think we have like 40-watt equivalent in our kitchen, but there's like 6 of them.
I don't think it's more mediocre than white rice.
Yeah, maybe not. But it could be a contender. We could call this podcast like extremely.
Could have been a contender.
We could call this podcast like extremely medium or something. Yeah.
All right. So
I would say I definitely like the extremely medium or extremely mediocre idea.
Yeah, we could call it a medium place.
The medium place.
The medium place.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Like, she's allowed, like, from the good place, there was one person in the medium place, and she was allowed to watch videos, but it was only a VHS of like the Dukes of Hazzard or something like that.
It wasn't the Dukes of Hazzard.
It was something like that, I feel like.
Yeah.
Or it was Cannonball Run, I think, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that sounds right.
Or something like that. Yeah, so, yeah, extremely... I like the idea of extremely medium or extremely middle or something like that, because it's obviously kind of a contradiction. Okay, that's pretty good. Is there any more to that, or should we move on to...
No, let's move on.
Okay, my next one, a lot of mine involve reading a bunch of names from things.
Are you going to read a bunch more names?
Several names, yeah. So this podcast is tentatively at least called Tales of the Highway People.
Okay.
And the idea is, for a long time, like, whenever I'm driving on the highway and I see, exit signs, a lot of times they say, like, 2 towns that if you exit here, you can go to one of those towns or whatever, right?
Okay.
And for a long time, I've thought that those a lot of times end up looking like somebody's name.
Okay.
And so I was thinking, what if we took those and, like, tried to come up with stories about who this person is?
Okay. So
yeah.
So it's kind of a storytelling podcast.
Yeah, it's like a storytelling podcast, but we come up with, like, what kind of names. So let me give you some examples. These are taken just from... I-87, which you can take from Albany to New York. And I just went and...
We've driven a number of times.
So, Suffern Sloatsburg, Saugerties Woodstock, Kingston Rhinecliff, Coxsackie Ravenna, or maybe Ravenna Coxsackie, Troy Cohoes, that's right near here, Clifton P. Half Moon, it's Clifton Park Half Moon, but I thought Clifton Half Moon, that was like a name, Wilton Gansevort, Minerva Pottersville, Lewis Willsboro, Chazy Ciota, or Sciota, I don't know how to pronounce that name of that town, but... And then this one's not from 87, but when we were driving back to Ithaca the other day, Homer Cortland seems like a name, right?
So how would we come up with more names besides the ones that are on your list, or just Google?
We can just look at, you can just look at any highway and Google, I think I just Googled I-87 exit name, and there was a website that had them all.
Well, this does seem like a good, like, road trip game.
Yeah.
If nothing else.
Yeah. So I guess we would, like, some of them are almost boring names, right? Like Lewis Willsboro or whatever. Could be anybody, right? But, like, who is Minerva Pottersville?
All right, so do you want to pick a name and try and come up with a story right now?
Yeah, I guess so, or at least see how it goes.
I don't feel like I'm going to be very good at this, but we can give it a shot.
How about Kingston Rhinecliff?
Okay, well, he obviously lives in some sort of manor.
Right, yeah. He's a fancy man of some kind.
He's a fancy lad.
I feel like he's like some kind of, like, baron of industry, maybe. Maybe he's the CEO of Beans, or like he's a shipping magnate or something. Maybe
he's the CEO of boats.
Of boats. He's or maybe like maybe he owns a gold mine or something.
That's not as exciting as a CEO of boats, though.
Well, I don't really know what the CEO of boats is.
Well, what's the CEO of Beans?
Well,
this is our story. There can be a CEO of boats.
Okay, so he's the CEO of boats. But I don't think he's a CEO. I think he's an owner. And maybe he's also the CEO, but he's like...
He's the owner of all boats? Or the concept of boats?
He has the patent on the concept of a boat.
Okay.
Maybe. No, but that would suggest maybe he invented boats, which is... I don't see him as an inventor. I see him more of as a
No, his
a money
grandfather
guy.
Invented boats.
Okay, his grandfather... So Kingston Rhinecliff's grandfather, whose name
boats.
was Boat...
Boaty McBoatface?
Whose name was John Boats.
No, his name was Boats Yachty.
Boats Yachty. Yachty Boats?
Yachty Boats.
I feel like his last name should be Boats.
Yeah.
Well,
I do like Yachty as a last name, though.
Boats Yachty is pretty good.
Boats Yachty.
So he invented
Maybe
boats.
Boats Yachty was his dog.
Maybe. We named the dog Boats Yachty. Yeah, okay. And then Kingston Rhinecliff now is at the helm of boats.
See what you did there?
That's kind of a pun there for all you pun heads out there. He's in charge of all boats. Or does he get royalties from boats if anytime somebody uses a boat?
He owns all of the boat companies.
Okay. Or maybe all of the boat companies just like have to pay him some kind of fee or tribute.
Well, yeah, because he has a patent on boats.
Right.
It hasn't run out yet.
Right, because he's got a patent on boats.
Well, it hasn't run out yet in the time that we're speaking about. Because Kingston Rhinecliff is not still alive.
No, that's true. He's from old times.
Yeah.
But patents only last 20 years, so maybe that doesn't matter. But, so I feel like he...
Do they only last 20 years?
Yeah.
Copyright.
He's copyrighted boats.
Yeah.
That's also not how copyright works, but okay. He's copyrighted boats.
It's our story. That can be how copyright works.
Sure. Okay. He owns the concept of boats in some way. I feel like he doesn't have to work though, right? Like he just owns boats, and so he's a playboy.
He just hangs out on a boat.
Maybe
all the time.
Does he have the power to teleport to any boat? Is it a magic boat thing?
You don't think he has enough power? You think he needs to be able to... He owns the concept of boats, but you think he should be able to teleport too?
Okay, so far we've got a rich guy that doesn't have to do any work. Sounds like...
What's his deal? Is he looking for love?
Yeah, maybe. I feel like he wears, like... He's a dandy, maybe. He, like... wears really fancy suits and has a cane and stuff, maybe.
Has a really fancy mustache.
Yeah.
Curly
super
mustache.
waxed curly mustache. But not in like a villain way. Well, I mean, he's kind of a villain, I guess. But not in a like Snidely Whiplash way necessarily.
In a like NPH in A Million Ways to Die in the West kind of way.
I don't.
Just trust me, that's accurate.
I haven't seen that, but okay. All right. Well, I don't know if we have a story, but we came up with what kind of guy he is.
I don't know if that was a full-on story, but it was still kind of fun to talk about.
Yeah.
Do we want to pick one of these ideas, or did you have another idea you wanted to talk about?
I wrote down a podcast where we obsess about the metrics of this podcast and how many listens it's getting from where.
Oh, I don't want to do that, especially right now.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's actually really anything, but just something I do in my spare time. I have Snakes on a Podcast.
Okay.
So I don't really have too much more about this idea other than it's a podcast about snakes.
You just wanted to say Snakes on a Podcast.
Snakes on a Podcast. I feel like it's a pretty good title. We could just talk about snakes, bring in snake experts. I don't know.
Yeah, because we're not snake experts, so I feel like we're maybe not the right people for this podcast.
Maybe it's maybe it's an idea for somebody else to make, but somebody should make Snakes on a Podcast. The podcast.
Yeah. Snakes on a Podcast, the podcast.
All right. We had to take a little break because baby. And baby still is happening. But hopefully he'll be chill for a little bit.
He's being pretty chill, but he does keep trying to crawl under my desk and mess with the power cords. So try to keep that from happening.
Yeah, hopefully he doesn't do that or make a lot of noise that I have to try to edit out and won't successfully be able to.
If I sound far away, it's probably because... Right on cue.
I don't think he's very rarely ever figured out how to make that thing make that noise by himself, but I guess now he does that.
He's got perfect comedic timing.
Anyway, what were we talking about? Snakes on a plane, snakes on a podcast.
Snakes on a podcast.
So
I do not think that we are necessarily the right people to spearhead that podcast, although I do appreciate the title.
Yeah, I suppose. All right. Well, what ideas do we have? What can we, flesh out a little bit more?
All right. So we had Snakes on a Podcast. We had
Tales of the Highway People.
We had Good versus Soup, but bad.
No, Mediocre.
Mediocre was what we landed on, which I think could be fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a podcast where we invent superheroes.
And also a podcast where we talk about really bad apologies. Any of those strike you as?
I was kind of having fun with the mediocre one. I felt like that was kind of fun.
Yeah, what did we say was the most mediocre thing? Like, just cooked rice?
Rice, yeah, just cooked rice.
Can we think of anything more mediocre than basic rice?
Is this the idea we want to explore more, or are you just asking me?
Well, I'm asking to see if we can explore it very much more, I guess.
Well,
I mean, on the plus side, rice... A lot of calories. It feeds billions of people around the world. So, you could argue it's pretty good, actually, I guess. So, yeah, I don't know. Tofu?
Yeah.
Plain tofu?
Plain tofu.
How firm?
I love tofu, but if you just eat plain tofu, not cooked or anything.
How firm are we talking? Is more firm or less firm more mediocre?
More firm is less mediocre. The less firm it is, the more it goes from mediocre into I'll get this slimy stuff out of my mouth.
Yeah. I don't know that I've eaten very much tofu that wasn't pretty firm, I feel like.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
No, even if you cook it, if it's not very firm, it gets slimy.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not very good, in my opinion.
Okay, so that
slimy
seems
tofu enthusiasts, don't come at me.
That sounds like less than mediocre. Right, so that sounds like worse than mediocre.
Yeah, that's
the slimy kind.
That's what I'm saying. If you get into the
but if
less
it's just
firm,
very firm,
if it's super firm tofu, mediocre.
Very firm but plain.
Well, I mean, does it count as mediocre if it could be better than mediocre? Because if you season it and cook it, it's delicious.
Well, no, yeah, that definitely counts. If any mediocre movie could have been a good movie if they did stuff different, right?
Yeah. So that's another thing. What if we get into the non-food realm?
Yeah. We definitely should get out of just the food realm, but I wonder what could exemplify mediocrity better than, because I'm not sure tofu is quite more mediocre
It's
It's
along
more-
the lines, same lines
it's
as
similar.
Rice, I suppose.
It's similar, yeah. I don't know. I mean, is there like a movie that's more mediocre? Like, I don't know. What are some hot takes about really mediocre movies? I can't even think of a mediocre movie. I'm sure. I mean, most movies are kind of mediocre, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what mediocre means.
Yeah,
But
not good, not really bad, just
or anything in our lives that are mediocre. These lampshades that right here are pretty mediocre.
Yes, these lampshades are pretty mediocre.
They're like beige. These came with the house that we're in now. They're beige, square, little.
They have no like really defining features. They
kind of look like
they're just kind of boxy.
they're kind of burlap-ish.
Yeah.
They're not made of burlap, I don't think, but they're like a burlap kind of vibe. But they're
not-
not bad. They work
Actually,
okay.
more of a linen, I think. But
Yeah, I guess. But the color is kind of darker. Well, sort of darkish beige on parts, I guess. They're pretty mediocre. They work fine. We don't have to replace them immediately, but they're not cool or good in any particular way, right?
So do we want to talk about Rice versus our lampshades?
Right?
You know what I'm realizing is this would be a pretty mediocre podcast.
Yeah, this podcast itself,
Our podcast.
our podcast that we're doing right now, does it compete with Rice? Because I'm not sure that these lampshades compete with Rice, but I don't know.
I think our podcast is a little better than Rice.
Yeah, hopefully.
That should be our new
a
tagline.
little better than Rice. A little better than plain cooked rice.
Listen to this podcast. It's a little bit better than Rice.
If you're a big Rice fan, then I guess maybe that would entice you.
Yeah.
Or it would be like, not likely. I better listen to see.
Are there people that are like big Rice fans? Because I feel like most of the time people are just like, yeah, sure, I'll have some rice.
I mean, there probably are some people.
Tell me why so, maybe.
Rice, that was cool. I feel like maybe this podcast would have to, like, good versus soup, right? Everybody knows what soup is. Everybody knows what good is. Everybody knows what babies are. Everybody knows what dinosaurs are. Nobody knows what our lampshades look like.
Yeah,
Even if we post them on Instagram or something, which would be a very mediocre post on Instagram. Oh, what about mediocre posts on Instagram?
But again, I do think that, like, doing, like, bad things versus each other could be kind of a fun, like, would you rather type of game. Like, you come up with creative bad things. Like, rather step on a packet of hot mayonnaise on a hot day, or, I don't know, you go.
That doesn't seem that bad. A packet of hot mayonnaise. Do I have shoes on?
No shoes.
Okay, so it's like sort of gross, but like not that gross. It doesn't.
I was drawing on personal experience. Thank you very much, and it was absolutely disgusting.
Okay, but you hate mayonnaise, and I don't hate mayonnaise. I'm sure it would still be gross, but it wouldn't be like stepping on cat poop or something, right? A thing that we both have done recently.
Yeah.
Well.
Okay. Stepping on cat poop at 7 a.m, or
having to pick a freaking sliver out of like half an inch deep in your foot, like we just had to for me.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I definitely would rather step on the cat poop.
Yeah, I mean it's over quicker.
It's over quickly, yeah. That thing's been in my toe for like 2 days. So.
Yeah, it's gone now though.
It's gone now.
Don't worry, everyone.
Yeah. So it's like mediocre bad things, right? Like mildly bad things.
I feel like you're analyzing it too much.
No, but I'm like we can't do a whole thing if it's like, okay, well, what about somebody comes and stabs you with a knife? That's worse. Okay, what if somebody blows up your whole town with a nuclear weapon? Well, that's worse.
Okay, well...
What if the universe stops existing entirely? Maybe that could
you
be
have
better,
to use your creativity to make it not suck. That's the point.
No, but I'm just saying, like I don't know.
Have you never played Would You Rather?
No, I have.
Because that's the basic concept that I'm...
I guess, yeah, you're saying it's a would you rather.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I'm not feeling a lot of legs on the would you rather or the mediocre thing.
All right. What do you want to dive further into?
What were the other things again? The highway people, the apologies thing. Let's see if we can come up with what makes a bad apology.
What makes a bad apology? Well, if any ukuleles are involved.
Don't play a ukulele, or do if you want a bad apology.
Yeah.
Or play any instrument.
Any instrument.
But ukulele is a particularly like precious or something kind of thing to play.
Yeah, it's a bit hipsterish, right?
Or something. If somebody got up...
It's like that. It's like, oh, you're going to like try and Zooey Deschanel your way out of this.
Yeah, like if somebody was trying to do it with a xylophone, I don't think it would be quite the same impact. It would be weirder, though.
It would be weirder.
Or like a steel drum.
It would be weirder. I think it would definitely still give the overall effect that you are not taking it seriously.
That's true.
You don't use instruments.
Is there an instrument that would suggest you were taking it seriously? Maybe if you, every time you like did a particularly strong, like taking accountability thing, you hit a gong?
The trombone, because then you can make the sad trombone noises. No, that would make it worse. That would definitely make it worse. But also better in some ways.
Okay, what's the worst
in terms of entertainment value?
Yeah, what's the worst... Is that what we're trying to do, make the most entertaining bad apologies?
No.
Maybe?
No, are we trying to give advice?
We're giving bad advice to do bad apologies.
Yeah, okay, well then use a trombone for sure.
Yeah. Step 1, learn how to play a trombone.
You don't have to learn how to play a trombone, you just have to learn how to play the sad trombone noise.
Which is like... Wah, 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 or something, right? Yeah, is that a trombone or a trumpet? I know it's like the meme or whatever is like sad trombone noise, but is that that might be a maybe? I don't know
how to play either one, so I'm not sure.
Yeah. What is the worst instrument to play while, or is there another?
The recorder.
The recorder. That's pretty good. Yeah. You're like.
It's torturous.
Yeah.
You're like playing hot cross buns as you're apologizing.
Okay. Hot cross, but yeah, okay. Is that symbolic of something? Your hot cross buns?
No.
Your buns are
it's just the first one I thought of because I don't think anybody plays anything else on the recorder.
That's literally the only thing you can play on a recorder. That's a well-known fact. Okay. What about, so there was...
what about a triangle?
Triangle. I feel like, it's... Okay, yeah. We need to dive in a little bit on what each different instrument you could be playing kind of says about you as you're doing it, right? Because I feel like, the ukulele has that kind of hipster, kind of like, I'm trying way too hard kind of vibe to it, I guess. Whereas...
It's very cringy.
Whereas a triangle is more like,
you don't know what's happening.
Why do I not know what's happening, or do you not know what's happening?
Going on in your brain?
And I feel like that's probably similar for like xylophone, right? Like, yeah. But a trumpet or trombone. Now, there's an interesting choice if you're doing a trumpet, trombone, recorder, flute, oboe, any of the ones you play with your mouth, right? You can't be giving an apology while you're playing it. Right. So you're like, it gives you a way to take a break from the talking, I guess. You have to take a break from the talking to do it.
Yeah. Or maybe you've just chosen for the music to be your apology.
Right. Yeah,
is there an instrument that's more pretentious and would make people hate you more than the ukulele?
It seems like there must be, but... What would it be? I mean, you could play Wonderwall while you were doing it or something, and I feel like that would be pretty funny. But like on guitar, I mean, like, you could be like, here's Wonderwall, and my apology.
Because I like the ukulele, but it is definitely more hipsterish than the guitar.
Yeah, like I mean, triangle's pretty funny. Drums. How about bongos? Oh, bongos. Bongos would be pretty like boomer hippie kind of situation feeling. Yeah. And there's definitely a like pretentious twat kind of.
Yeah, imagine if Kevin Spacey had added bongos to his apology.
I don't think I've actually seen Kevin Spacey's apology.
It's pretty bad.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, obviously that would be research you would have to do. All the bad celebrity apologies.
Yeah, that's a downside to this. I don't really want to watch all those, but...
Yeah, or like that Chris Hardwick's apology where he said he's a future father, even though his wife wasn't pregnant or anything like that.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
That was pretty funny, but like...
As a husband and future father,
Right. And
is a wild thing to say when your wife's not pregnant.
Right. It's like, as a husband and future discoverer of the cure for cancer, maybe. Right? Like, you shouldn't criticize me because you never know, I might invent the cure for cancer eventually.
I mean, if you're the woman in that relationship, you do something wrong and you say, and let's say we don't have a baby yet, and you say,
well, I had a baby.
You didn't have any babies.
Yeah.
And you say, as a husband and future father, I, as the woman, would be going, what?
Yeah.
Do you know something I don't know?
Yeah.
Do we need to have a conversation?
Yeah. So, definitely add in weird stuff like that if you want to do a bad apology.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like bongos...
Yeah, say like if you're an actor, say as a husband and a future scientist.
Yeah.
Because, who knows what the future holds.
Right. Future president. Yeah. If we get back to instruments, I do think bongo is at least on the level of ukulele.
Wait, I want to, hang out for a little bit, though, in terrible things to say.
Yeah, okay.
So, what other weird... Let's take as a husband and future father, and what other weird things could you say? As a husband and... individual who has a sister.
Right.
I would never do anything bad to women.
Future sibling? Is that weird?
Future sibling.
My mom might have another kid.
You never know. She's 62, but
she is postmenopausal, but you never know.
Medicine is coming right along.
Life finds a way. Yeah. I don't know. So the point of saying that, it's also weird because he was accused of sexual. He was like a Me Too thing, or he was accused of being abusive in a previous relationship or whatever. And so what is saying a future father supposed to get you in that, right?
I guess having kids makes you a good person.
Right. People can't be abusive if they're dads. Or future dads.
Right.
People can't have been abusive if they become a dad.
Right.
It cancels all previous abusiveness.
It's just a weird ass thing to say.
Right, because I would sort of get it if it was future haver of a sister haver, right? It's that I know women, so I can't be misogynist or whatever, right? I have a black friend, so I can't be racist, right? But I might have a kid someday.
It's very
even I will have a kid in 9 months or whatever. Even if she was pregnant, his wife was pregnant. What is that supposed to do? What is that supposed to suggest in this apology?
How could I hate women? I married one.
Right.
Is basically.
But also, how could I hate
the first part of that?
Hate women. I'm going to have a child of some gender that might not even be female.
How could I hate women? I'm gonna impregnate one.
Yeah. I would have sex with a woman, so I can't hate women.
Right, because we all know that anyone that wants to have sex with a woman respects and loves and treats women well.
Right, and would never be abusive. That's for sure a known thing. What about, and that was arguably not even an apology, right? It was just a response, right?
It was...
Colleen Ballinger's thing, I guess, wasn't really an apology either, but...
that's what we're talking about is non-apologies, right?
I guess we're talking about, responses to criticism or controversy that would be where you would do an apology, but not an apology.
What is your most hated way for someone to apologize without apologizing? What's a phrase you hate? Because I know what I think one of the worst ones is. Yeah,
there's stuff I'm sorry that you are upset or whatever, and stuff like that.
That's what I'm sorry you took it that way.
Yeah, to me, if someone says something like that to me, I could sort of get around it and think well, I guess that suggests that they didn't mean it that way or something. To me, I think what I hate is when the apology suggests that I'm actually wrong and they're
See, I feel I'm sorry you took it that way does suggest that. I didn't do a wrong thing, you just took it wrong.
Yeah.
It was
I'm trying
just
to think
a joke.
of an example. I'm trying to think of an example, but if someone steps on my foot, I guess, and they're well, I'm sorry you were dangling your foot around like an idiot or something, right? Something like that, I guess.
Or, I'm sorry, it was just a joke.
Yeah. again, like, I feel like that one is borderline because sometimes you can say something as a joke and then be like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it the way it came out or whatever.
Well, yeah, but if you say I'm sorry, it was just a joke, that's different than saying I'm sorry, I didn't mean it the way it came out.
Yeah, well, I think I think maybe something we're running into right now is like a lot of times people don't say, I'm sorry, it was just a joke. They just say, it was just a joke.
Yeah.
Or you're too sensitive, it was just a joke.
Yeah.
Right? If you add I'm sorry, it does kind of at least imply some amount of...
Okay, how about I'm sorry you can't take a joke?
Okay, yeah, that's... Okay, yeah. Yeah, okay, that one's pretty infuriating, I guess. It doesn't really work when you're accused of like sexual harassment or something. Or maybe
I mean,
people say stuff like that. Yeah, I guess maybe. Even after our break, Rory might not have a lot of time left, so probably have to wrap up. But I think I'm liking this apologies one a little bit more. Like just
we could call it all apologies.
That's literally what I suggested.
Oh,
But well, Apall is spelled Apall-ogies.
Oh,
right?
Okay, right. Well,
Or
you
my
can't
apologies.
expect me to remember that. It was like 3 days ago.
Oh, okay.
And it's been pushed out for all the new information
Right.
that I have to keep in my head.
Sure. Is all apologies or like my apologies or like...
Well, I think it should be all apologies because now we both suggested it.
Yeah, okay. Sure, all apologies, but Apall spelled like appalling. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although if you spell it like appalling, it might be kind of hard for people to find it, which we definitely need to worry about because we're actually going to make this podcast.
Well, we could have a subtitle that was like, how to do apologies wrong or something. It's spelled regular. Are there other like hallmarks of the like? I think the really hallmarks of the genre of bad apologies, like really bad ones do have that creative element of like, why are you doing this? Why would you ever think this was a good thing?
Why would you think this was better than saying nothing?
Right. You could have said literally nothing, and it would be better than what you're doing right now.
Right.
I mean,
because again, neither of us knew who Colleen Ballinger was.
Right, before her ukulele apology. And I still don't remember who it was or what her name was, but there was some girl that did like a whole like interpretive sexy dance or something thing as an apology that I saw briefly. Like, that's pretty out there.
I'm shaking my head and I just realized that nobody can see me shaking my head, but I am shaking my head.
Yeah. Are there other art styles you could do as an apology that would be especially bad?
Maybe if you like dressed up as a mime and mimed your apology.
Mime apology, that's pretty good / bad. What about like a rap, like a bad rap?
Oh, bad rap.
Like a old white guy rap, boomer white guy rap or something?
Yeah, that would be pretty good. Maybe you apologize while tap dancing.
That might improve the experience, actually. No.
It depends if you're like good at tap dancing or not.
Yeah, I guess that's interesting. You're not good at tap dancing, but you decide to do that as part of your apology?
Yeah.
That's a choice right there.
Yeah, which is kind of like, I don't know, there's that scene in Chicago where they're like, ladies and gentlemen, a tap dance. Because tap dancing is like kind of trying to get out of something, right? So it's kind of funny on that level too.
Yeah, I mean, if you did an apology where you were tap dancing and you were like talking about how like you have to tap dance around everyone's sensitive feelings or something like that.
Yeah.
That would be pretty good.
No, I mean, just the tap dance is like, that's the thing, right? I'm not making that up. Like tap dance, like tap dancing is like, stop trying to tap dance your way out of this.
Is that?
Yeah.
Well,
I don't think I'm making that up. It's in Chicago.
That might be a thing. But like
the thought of tap dancing while giving an apology is very funny to me.
Okay, that's fine.
I think I've talked about it so much that now it's not funny, though.
Yeah, you ruined tap dancing for everyone. Forever.
I'm just gonna tap dance on out of the room.
Okay, I'm waiting.
Yeah, it's a vaudeville thing.
No, I'm waiting.
You like tap dance off stage?
I'm waiting for you to tap dance out.
You're holding a cane and you're like,
yeah,
you got the top hat and you're just like tap off stage.
Okay. I mean, you could give your apology as like a slam poem.
That could be painful.
That could be pretty...
That might be more pretentious than the ukulele.
It might be. Especially, like, if you do...
No offense to, like, I enjoy poetry.
I've been to some slam poetry things that were good, but...
But this is just a bad one, right?
Yeah, well,
like, there's ukulele I enjoy, too.
Well, yeah, for sure. And doing it as an apology, like, you could certainly write a poem or improvise a poem or whatever about something you felt bad about and wanted to apologize for or something like that. But like, you wouldn't deliver that to the person who you owe an apology to as their apology.
Right.
If you do that, you're like, my art is more worthy than a regular apology or something.
Well,
right? Like,
and it also like burdens the person with your feelings, right? Like like an apology should be selfless. It shouldn't be about like your feelings, and poetry generally is about your feelings.
Yeah,
right?
and also it also might burden them with fucking literary analysis of what you're saying to try to figure it out if you're like in a particularly obtuse kind of poem, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
Or if it's like William Shatner style. Like, have you heard him do his like reading of what is it? He does like a cover of Rocket Man where he's just like,
I absolutely have not heard that.
I don't know the lyrics a lot. Rocket Man right now, I guess, but like he does like covers of songs where he just like kind of says the lyrics slowly without any rhythm. Just like,
well, I'm gonna have to check that out after.
Yeah, it's quite bad, but I feel like he's done poetry like that before too.
I'm not the man they think I am back home. Oh no, I'm a rocket man.
Anyway, yeah, like slam poetry that's like
a bad poem.
A really bad poem. I guess you could write maybe a really beautiful poem and give it to someone, but you wouldn't be there for it, right? You would let them like read it and like...
You wouldn't put it on YouTube.
You definitely wouldn't... broadcasting it to the world is also maybe a...
Anytime you're broadcasting your apology to the world...
Yeah, I mean...
If you're taking a video of yourself, that's already self-indulgent,
Well,
right?
it's a questionable at least, right? But somebody who's done public bad probably needs to make a public apology,
right? But they don't need to make a YouTube video to do that.
Yeah,
or a video.
That's true, I guess. But like, I mean, if you're a YouTube star or whatever, like Colleen Ballinger, then it probably makes the most sense to do it on YouTube. So I wouldn't say...
But, I mean, maybe you listen to your agents when they tell you
not to
don't do this, it's a bad idea.
I'm just saying, like, putting it on YouTube isn't inherently bad, but it certainly it puts you in a bad spot to start out with. Maybe.
Yeah, it's a little... I mean, I feel like at best it's self-indulgent.
Yeah. I don't really know how to handle doing an apology when you're a big star or whatever, and you have a lot of people to apologize. Because normally you would want to have a private apology between you and whoever you wronged, right? And they can talk about it to other people if they want to, right? But you don't necessarily have to broadcast if you wronged one person or a few people. You don't necessarily need to broadcast it, right?
If everybody already knows you did the thing, I suppose you do need to, like, at least come out and own it.
Yeah.
And be like, yeah, I did a bad thing.
I guess other things that are bad to do in apologies is like deflecting and like saying how everybody's just being mean to me and taking everything out of context. And like one thing that she did a lot in that video was frame things that were pretty bad as like really minor things, right? Like she said something about like a fart joke, and that doesn't sound that bad.
Right.
But what she actually did was like...
She like called a girl up on stage, spread her legs open, and then played a fart sound.
Yeah, or something. I mean, yeah, I guess that's what you told me. I haven't seen it or
I haven't seen it. That's just what I read.
Yeah. I do just kind of enjoy talking about different like ridiculous performances you can do as part of an apology.
Yeah.
Tap dancing,
playing
bongos, and doing like beat poetry as your apology.
Don't forget the recorder.
What if you did an apology where you like... Have you ever seen those videos where they like play a cover of a song on a recorder, but they made the recorder out of a potato or out of a melon or something? Like they've made it out of some weird thing, and then they play that.
That might be better than a recorder because at least it has like something interesting about it.
So I was gonna say, but what if they made it out of like a potato, but they carved it to look like your face? Or like a middle finger, maybe, or something.
Well, if it's a middle finger, that's definitely bad.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
That's definitely worse. If they carved it to look like somebody's face, then we're again veering into territory of like, what's going on in your head?
If it's like their own face, that's a different kind of weird than if it's like the person they've wronged's face.
Yeah. But both of them would just make you go,
what is going on?
What is happening?
What if you... Okay, that also just made me think, like, what if you did an apology in, like, pretty normal, except you were wearing, like, a shark costume the whole time? Or just some weird costume? That could be fun.
I mean,
right?
I guess it depends on what the apology is. Then in that case, like, if the content of the apology is fine, then I guess it's fine.
Yeah.
If you're wearing a shark costume.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you were wearing something like a costume that was somehow relevant to it, it would be bad. It could be worse. Could imply. I mean, somebody's going to take that and think it implies something, though, right? It does definitely imply that something is wrong with you, because why are you wearing a shark costume during this apology? But yeah, I don't know. Yeah. We might have to be wrapping up here shortly. Rory's getting pretty fussy over here.
I think you might be hungry.
Are you hungry, buddy? All right, yeah. So the all apologies. That's
All
our
apologies.
podcast.
That's our new podcast.
Yep. I could read some more names of dogs.
If you don't like it, I'm sorry you took it that way.
Oh yeah, that's right.
If you don't want to listen to it,
yeah. If you didn't like this
sorry
episode,
that you can't take a joke.
Yeah, I'm sorry that you're so lame.
If you like this podcast, one that we are currently doing, you should go check us out on social media and follow us, and you should like us and leave us a review. You can find all of our socials at coolpodcast.website.
Yep, and the website now has the latest episode embedded on it, too, if you are just having a hard time finding the episode.
You can just type in...
you can just go to our website.
Which is coolpodcast.website. You can just type that in the address bar and
that's how the internet works.
Give you our latest podcast like magic. We're also we are on Twitter now and Instagram, although we haven't posted anything on Instagram, but we probably will soon.
Are we going to get on Threads or whatever? Maybe?
We'll probably be on Threads too, at What Should Pod. We're on Twitter until Twitter finishes dying.
Oh, actually,
slow death.
If we have What Should Pod on Instagram, I think we can automatically get on Threads.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. That's how it works.
Anyway, yeah.
So we'll probably be on Threads.
We'll be on social medias and such the like.
But please follow us, because we don't have very many followers yet.
Yeah,
it makes us sad, and we want more ideas.
Please leave us some kind of review on one of the things. That would be very cool. And we'll shout out anybody who does that, including if it's bad. In fact, we might even have a segment where we just read reviews, and if they're especially bad, it could be fun.
Yeah. You can listen to us cry.
Yeah. And send us your ideas. You can send us emails. what@coolpodcast.website. Or you can just send them on other things we just talked about.
Yep. Send us a message.
Send us
lots of messages.
Or just your thoughts or whatever you want. Okay, I guess that's it.
Will you put a sad trombone noise in? Bye.
Bye. What was that podcast about? I'm trying to figure it out. What was that podcast about? Could you perhaps help me out? I had my head in the clouds, didn't catch what that was about.